Hey guys, I don't know who's going to join me for this one, but I wanted to slip in a science stream here on Saturday. I was just watching the Michigan football spring game, so I have a sports channel, so I had to get a little bit of that in. I'm gonna adjust my name here. Let's see, edit name. Let's call myself today human health technology astronomy. There we go. I'm going to make an announcement over on my original channel in case someone wants to come and join me over here. Let me make sure I can see myself. Yep, I can see myself. On several topics. All right, so that's shared over there. Oh, I got another like. So that's shared over there. And unfortunately, as you guys can see, I'm here in Buffalo, upstate New York, Western New York. It's cold. That's why I'm wearing the scarf. But I was on Tuesday. I was running to get out of my place in Northern Virginia, and I forgot. I unplugged it, and it's still sitting there on my desk at my place. I forgot my external hard drive with my video library. So all my pictures, all my music, all my introductions. So I don't have my Big Discussions 76 Science and Technology intro to play for you guys right now. So I'm just going to jump in. I have a question for the tech guys, if any of them are passing through, and if any of them see this. I'm thinking about AB Media or Keep It Techie or Engineering Cannabis or anyone who's savvy on Google, artificial intelligence. If any of those guys are passing through, I'll drop the link because I have a question about Google and the Google search algorithm. But in the meantime, I have two articles that I'm going to read that I saw from this last week and the week before, that I thought would be good for capturing in a stream. Let's see. Before I jump into that, let me slow down. Before I jump into that, please consider joining the Big Words LLC Newsletter. That is here. There's a greeting there. And you just scroll down to the bottom, subscribe, and you'll be on my email list. It's a way for me to, I'm a YouTube content creator and a writer, and I'm working on a book. And this is part of my strategy. I'll just say that for packaging and getting my messaging out. The book project is called The Engineers of Western New York Basketball Story. And that's here. I'll be talking about this in the newsletter. And there are actually some aspects of this story that apply to science because Having gone through this experience, as you can see, I'm not in the NBA and I didn't go play major Division I basketball. But that little snippet of competition in interscholastic sports that I got, that taught me about competition. And then when I went ahead and pursued my PhD at the University of Michigan in pharmacology, I saw that science was a lot about competition as well. And then even once you get out into the workforce, whether you're in the public sector or the private sector, or you're a consultant of some sort, you're always competing. You're competing against your coworkers. You're competing against other companies. If you're in the private sector, you're competing against other consulting groups. So life, in a lot of ways, and in many arenas, is about competition. And that's one thing that, at an early age, interscholastic sports teaches you. It also teaches you about people and how to deal with adversity. So that's all below in the description box. If you're watching this, I see people coming in and coming out. Please like the stream. If you want to throw something in the tip jar, or if you want to make a donation to the channel, I'm going to leave that information in the chat right now. Normally I'd have this information handy, but I left that external hard drive in Northern Virginia. Let me do this, and then I will get this started. If any of the tech guys come through, I'm thinking AV Media, Keep It Techie, Engineering Cannabis, any of those guys, Professor Black Ops. I suppose I should have formally reached out to them via email, but didn't have time. Okay, if anyone wants to donate to the channel, I don't have a super chat over here. That information is there. Okay, so I have two articles I'm going to read through. One of them, or should I say the first one, I'm going to speak in code for obvious reasons. But if any of the tech guys come through, I have a question for you guys. So the first article in my smartphone, my new Google Pixel 6, gets these daily, just like my old LG Thin 50Q, which I really liked, that got articles regularly. So this one is entitled, and remember, for this one, guys, I'm speaking in code. And this is below in the description box in case you want to pull it and read it for yourself. This one is entitled, MLR, what's going on? Thank you for stopping through. This one is entitled, People Who Had C19, I'm not saying the entire thing, are at significantly higher risk of developing diabetes. This is from, looks like Fortune. And this is dated March 22nd, and it was written by Chris Morris. Okay. Yeah, so I'm very, very careful talking about this topic on this channel. This channel got taken down once YouTube/Google was gracious enough to put it back up, but they are still policing discussion of this particular thing. So I'm going to speak in code. You can read it for yourself. People who have recovered from the contagion, the world contagion in the past year are 40% more likely to develop diabetes, according to a new study out this week. The majority of the new diagnoses were for type 2 diabetes, says the report, which was published in the Lancet Diabetes and Endocrinology journal. That means that 1% of all people who have had the contagion during the course of the pandemic I'm sorry, during the course of the world event are likely to develop diabetes or otherwise would not, translating to millions of new patients. That's interesting. If you're just coming in, please hit the like button. We're talking about the world event and the contagion right now. Snuggle says, first of all, MLR, thank you for stopping through. Appreciate it. I always appreciate your support. You're one of my regulars. Snuggle says, I want you to do an interview with urban nerds. The things that we talk about are similar. Okay, I will look their channel up, or his or her channel. I'll look them up. Thank you, Snuggles, for that recommendation. It's the latest in a growing string of worrisome health issues that develop for some people who are infected with the contagion. Heart and kidney issues have been seen. Cognitive dysfunction is common. Devastating hair loss has been reported. Even a mild case of disease can decrease the size of your brain as much as it would over 10 years of aging. Interesting. And with this latest risk, some researchers say that the contagion could cause people to experience a new type of diabetes, which causes cells to increase rather than lower blood sugar. The study looked at records of 181,000 people who were diagnosed with the contagion in the past year, drawing from the Veterans Health Administration system. It compared those to more than 8 million people who didn't have the contagion. The new cases occurred even in people who had little or no risk factors for the disease. This isn't the first time the contagion has been tied to diabetes. A study by the same researchers last year found that the contagion isn't just deadlier for people with diabetes, it's also triggering the metabolic disease in many who didn't previously have it. Even some children's mild contagion cases can be followed by the swift onset of diabetes, scientists found. That 2021 study found that that 2021 study found the risk to be roughly 6.5 additional diabetes cases for every 1,000 contagion patients who don't end up in the hospital. For those who did, the probability jumped from 37 per 1,000, and it was even higher for patients who required intensive care. The story was originally featured on fortune.com. Okay, that's the end of that one. So, according to this, infection with the contagion can lead to type 2 diabetes. That, for those of you unfamiliar with type 2 diabetes, that's insulin resistance, high blood sugar levels. Well, those individuals have to monitor their blood sugar, but insensitivity to insulin. Insulin, if you recall, or if you're not familiar, insulin, when the pancreas senses sugar floating around in the blood, the pancreas secretes insulin. That insulin causes cells around the body to recruit glucose transporters to the cell membrane so that glucose can go inside the cells for metabolism. And once people become insulin resistant, it's harder for their cells to metabolize glucose. And as I've described in my videos, glucose is used to create ATP, which is a acronym for adenosine triphosphate. And that's the basic energy source for our bodies and our cells. Speaking of which, I talk about this in my kidney videos. If you haven't watched either of my kidney videos, please check those out. Those are in my library, and they could use some more love. Okay. So our 15 minutes. I don't see any of the tech guys. I should have emailed them so that they would have known to come through. But we could do this again in another stream if none of them come through. All right. MLR says, I am curious with the demographics of this article. I'll have to look this up. Okay. So I'm going to minimize this article. And for those of you watching and those watching on the playback, we're going to jump and talk about some astronomy. So on this channel, you know that my backgrounds are in the biomedical sciences, and I've had the guys I've talked about, AB Media, Gabe A, Professor Black Ops, Engineering Cannabis, Keep It Techie, those guys, Complex. Those are all technology guys in one shape or fashion. And I had one astronomy person come on about 2 years ago, Rafael Perino. I asked him to come back, and so he'll come back at some point. But I saw an interesting article about something outer space related, so I'm going to read that. And if none of the tech guys come through, I'll end the stream. Or if there are more comments there, I'll address the comments in the chat. MLR, thank you for the generous Cash App. Once again, I always appreciate your support in this YouTube thing. This article is entitled Fridge-sized asteroid hit Earth 2 hours after it was first spotted by NASA. I'm sorry. Fridge-sized asteroid hit Earth 2 hours after it was first spotted, NASA says. Yeah, it's interesting. You know, we're so consumed with what's happening here on the planet. Will Smith slapping Chris Rock, the war in Ukraine, the world event in terms of the contagion, elections, social justice, energy crises, inflation. We're so worried about what's happening here on the surface that we seldom think about what's happening in outer space. And whether any of us know it or not, there are regularly asteroids and objects passing by our planet that we never know about. We the non-astronomy community, but the astronomy people, they're watching this stuff at observatories all the time. So it's interesting. You know, so much depends on where your focus is and what you're looking at. But we're so consumed with what's happening here on our surface that we seldom take a look up at the sky and wonder what's happening out there until something comes crashing into our atmosphere and causing damage. Like coincidentally, years ago, that happened in Russia. I believe something came through the atmosphere and exploded over one of the Russian cities or states, and it caused a chain reaction all throughout the city, and glass cracked and buildings. It caused a bit of an earthquake. So let's take a look at this. And I appreciate your comment, Constructive Consultant. He says, appreciate your stream, Dr. Dunbar. Thank you. Please get those likes up for those of you who are here. So this reads as follows. Fridge-sized asteroid hit Earth 2 hours after it was first spotted, NASA says. This was written by Jordan Mendoza of USA Today on March 19th. It's like a snake there, a baby snake or an eel or something, or maybe yeah, I don't know what that is. Anyway, an asteroid around the size of a refrigerator was spotted hours before it hit Earth's atmosphere. And while it wasn't dangerous, it marked the fifth time in history an asteroid was detected right before hitting our planet. On March 11th, astronomer Christian Sarnezik noticed an asteroid in the, oh boy, uh, Piscatetto, Piscatetto Observatory in Hungary. Sarnezik reported it to the International Astronomical Union's Minor Planet Center, which confirmed it was the first time the asteroid had been observed. NASA's Scout system, which constantly searches the Minor Planet Center's database for any potential impacts, then calculated the asteroid's orbit, finding that the asteroid would certainly hit Earth. The system then notified the Center for Near Earth Object Studies at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California and other asteroid impact systems. Luckily for Earth, the asteroid named 2022 EB5 was around 6.5 feet long, a size too small to pose a hazard to Earth, NASA said in a statement. Hey, what's going on, Salchi? Just doing a short science stream here. Hoping one of the tech guys passed through as I have a question about the Google search algorithm. So I'm just here doing this stream. Me and Salchi, for those of you who don't know, over on my original channel, sometimes we talk money. And me and Salchi had we did a show on Thursday night, which I think a lot of people enjoyed. So if you haven't watched that, please go take a look and leave a comment. Scout determined the asteroid would enter Earth's atmosphere around Jan Mayen, a Norwegian island roughly 300 miles northeast of Iceland. At 5:23 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 2 hours after the asteroid was first spotted by Sarnezik, the asteroid hit Earth's atmosphere just as Scout predicted. It was the fifth time an asteroid was spotted hours before it hit Earth, and the first time it's happened since 2019. Scout had only 14 observations over 40 minutes from one observatory to work with when it first identified the object as an impactor. We were able to determine the possible impact locations, which initially extended from Western Greenland to off the coast of Norway, said David Farnasha, a navigation engineer who developed Scout. As more observatories tracked the asteroid, our calculations of its trajectory and impact location became more precise. The International Meteor Organization said no meteorites from the asteroid have been recovered, but some people in Iceland reported seeing bright flashes indicating the space rock became a fireball. Paul Chodas, a director of the Center for Near Earth Object Studies, said asteroids like 2022 EB5 enter the Earth's atmosphere around every 10 months, but it's hard to spot one before it's already entered the atmosphere. Very few of these asteroids have actually been detected in space and observed extensively prior to impact, basically because they are very faint until the last few hours, and a survey telescope has to observe just the right spot of the sky at the right time for one to be detected, Chodas said. Okay. If you're just coming in, please hit that like button. Please get the likes up. I appreciate everyone who's listening to this. This isn't, depending upon which YouTube circle you're running, this isn't the usual fare. So I appreciate you guys being here listening to this. Okay. While the asteroid snuck up on astronomers, there was no need to worry about a bigger catastrophic asteroid doing the same. NASA said larger asteroids are easier to spot and can be found far in advance. The agency noted this asteroid showed their systems can be highly accurate in projecting in objects' likely impact location and would help planetary defense systems to be fully prepared. NASA is testing its planetary defense systems um, should a dangerous asteroid ever threaten to hit Earth. NASA launched the DART system in November, which will hit the asteroid moon of Didymos in September, with the goal of determining whether crashing a spacecraft into an asteroid could change its course. So you can follow Jordan Mendoza at Jordan Mendoza 5 on Twitter. Yeah, so those were the two articles that I wanted to read. I haven't seen any of the tech guys come through. So I'll just go for a few more minutes. If someone peeks in, I'll drop the link. If you guys have any science questions right there in the chat, anything you're curious about, I'll go for a few more minutes. I'll go for a little bit longer. If you have any specific questions or uncertainties for me that you ask, that you want to ask, I might have the answer. I might not. But if you guys have any questions, let me know. I'll hang on for just a little bit longer, and then I'll wrap up if none of the aforementioned tech guys stop through. I probably should have been more formal and sent them an interview. I'm sorry, and sent them an invite so that they would have set their time aside to participate. But I just did this last minute. MLR says, at Salchi, good to see you. You provided good information on finance. Keep doing what you are doing. Every bit of additional knowledge from Black men like you helps us navigate our world. Yep, I agree. You know, money is a science all in itself, as is the management of it, as is the investing of it, interest rates, all those things, the economy, taxes, all that's a science, and which is why individuals like Salchi and Alonzo, who have knowledge of those things, that's why what they know is very, very important. And that's why it's important that they come and speak to us and disseminate what they know. Yeah, you're right. Let's see if I can pronounce that. Last Zulu. I recognize your name. He says, my first question is, what specific field do you study? That's a good question. Let me pull this up, because I actually wrote about this years ago. Give me a second, Last Zulu. A lot of people don't understand being a YouTuber. Why be a YouTuber? Why be a content creator? You know, is it just a lot of are there just a lot of angry people ranting online and spreading misinformation? It's more than that. In many instances, there's valuable information being shared. So Last Zulu, please hit the like button if you're just coming in. Those of you who've been watching me for an extended period of time, you've seen this essay before, but my background, my PhD is actually in pharmacology. and I have 2.5 additional years of training in toxicology. So pharmacology and toxicology, they're sister sciences. That's what I call them. One deals with the therapeutic effects of drugs and chemicals. The other deals with the harmful effects of chemicals, and that could be anything. Last Zulu. I'm going to drop this link in the chat in case you want to read it. It's just an introductory essay to what pharmacology is. Hopefully, YouTube doesn't mind me sharing that link. You know, when they took my channel down, I think about a year ago or 2 years ago, I was sharing something from my blog. I don't think they wanted me talking about that. And I was sharing it to the chat and it was saying error, error, error. And then I went and looked over to YouTube and the screen went blank. So they shut the stream down partway through. And then they sent me a quick email saying, we stopped your stream. We've deleted your channel. You can appeal it, but you know, you were spreading some sort of misinformation. Anyway, so last Zulu. So my background is in pharmacology. And then I did a 2.5 year postdoc in toxicology. So I wrote this essay as well. Sister sciences, they're very similar. You're both dealing with what compounds do to living systems. One deals with the therapeutic effects, one deals with the harmful effects. And you're thinking whole body, all the way down to the cellular and molecular level. So here's my toxicology post in case you want to read that. Hopefully YouTube doesn't mind me sharing that. This is for educational purposes only. Now, what I do now is I work in regulatory affairs. And what regulatory affairs is you're dealing with product safety. So you're dealing with products that are being sold to the general public, and there's a round of safety testing that those products have to go through based upon government statutes and laws before they can be sold to the general public. So you see that the image there is toothpaste. Every chemical in that toothpaste formulation has to be tested and regulated. And the same is true for drugs. The same is true for immunizations. I was going to say that the V word. I'm not going to say the V word, but immunizations. Just think about all the work that went into getting these immunizations for our current world event out so people could use them. So those were all regulatory bodies that looked at the data and made safety decisions and determined if the immunizations were safe for us to use. That's regulatory. There are also regulatory aspects to energy. So regulatory is everywhere, but that's where I work now. We register a certain class of chemical. I won't talk about it now because I still work there, but some clues are actually in this essay as well. So I'm going to drop this in the chat as well. Oh, I just lost my light. One of my lights. Okay, hopefully YouTube doesn't mind me sharing that. So Last Zulu says, very interesting. I personally have a question about engineering, but I don't know if that's your expertise, so I don't want to bother you that much. Well, Last Zulu, go ahead and ask it. I can pose it to one of the other guys when they come back, and yeah, it'll give me something to ponder. So go ahead and ask it in the chat. Let's see. My second question is, you probably should have invited one of the tech guys to come here directly. Okay, that's probably a recommendation. Um, and you're right, I should have. Snuggles says it's very interesting. The same things people do not pay attention to that will have the most effect on their lives. Yeah, we're as a species, we're just so concerned with what's happening here on the surface of the planet, and we don't. If you ask your average American, um, what the Kuiper belt is, what the Oort cloud is, what an exoplanet is, and whether or not Pluto is still considered a planet, the average American probably wouldn't know that. Um, yeah, that's just my opinion. If you ask the average American what the James Webb Telescope is, they wouldn't know. If you ask the average American what the Hubble telescope is, they wouldn't know. It's just we're not we're inundated with so many other things every day. So Snuggle says, do you think people are naturally sheep by nature? Are people sheep by nature? Well, I think we naturally form tribes and groups. I'm sure BGS would have a lot to say about this. But yeah, I think naturally we are. I think we naturally form packs and tribes and herds like every other animal with a leader or leaders, and particularly in our modern society, in our modern technological society, with all the technology and the social media, uh, you can engineer, minds and thoughts, and expose people to certain messages and get them to think in a certain way and get them to move in a certain way. And I think we're seeing that now. Look at what happened with Big Willie Style and Chris Rock. I mean, everybody just look at how that just engulfed everything. It even had more traction than the war going on the other side of the world. So yeah, I definitely think so. Think about election time. Think about how people are um, convinced to vote in a certain way and to think a certain way. Think about religion. Religion, you can put religion in there as well. So yeah, I think the human species definitely has a sheep-like nature about it. Let's see. Last Zulu. Oh, Floyd, that's very kind. That's very, very kind. If anyone wants to make a donation, I don't have a super chat over here. My Cash App and PayPal are there. Last Zulu says, Floyd Holt says, this is the most underrated channel on YouTube. I appreciate that. If you're new coming in, please subscribe. I got to get the watch hours up. Yeah, science topics are very, very important. Unfortunately, they're not as popular as Big Willie Style and Chris Rock and the Image Guy and Nicki Minaj and Joe Budden. Science just isn't as though it's just not as sexy a field as those things. Last Zulu says, I wanted to ask what's probably the most profitable engineering field with a less stress. I was thinking civic engineering because I actually want to better the world better. You want to leave the world better than when you um, found it, but mechanically. Okay, that's a question for yeah. I just there's no harm in getting it out there. I don't have an answer for that, but that's a good question for Brother X. Let's see, and maybe even keep it techie and Professor Black Ops and those guys. Let's see. Floyd says you deserve more views, homie, with these topics. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I started this channel. Maybe someday I can sit alongside Neil deGrasse Tyson. There just aren't a lot of black men who are knowledgeable in the STEMs and who are visible. And I think that lack of visibility is hurting everybody. And so that's one of the reasons I started this channel. And I appreciate you. I appreciate that sentiment. Let's see. Last Zulu says, I was thinking civic engineering, but I'm still kind of young. Well, you don't have to get specific, but are you still in your 20s or your late teens? Where are you in that spectrum? Last Zulu says, and my next question is, I've been thinking about going to SpaceX. Wow. What will probably be the science to study? Okay, well, Last Zulu, check out, you know what, Last Zulu, I'll get the link for you right now. You have to watch my interview with Rafael Perino. Just give me 1 second, I'll find the link and I'll drop it in the chat. SpaceX, you're probably going to want some form of aerospace engineering, some form of physics. You know what? I'm sure they have all types of specialists and scientists over there. I mean, you would naturally think aerospace and aerospace engineering and those types of guys, but they have a lot of different kinds of people over there. But Last Zulu, you should watch this. This is about an hour long, but me and Raphael, we talked about some very, very important things and things that people in our community have never even heard of before. So there's the link right there. Watch that. Floyd Holt says, I'm wondering what laws are being passed right now with all these distractions. That's right. Even my own family members are clueless about the Nazis in Ukraine. I've heard about. What can you say on YouTube anymore? Even my own families are clueless about this specific special group in Ukraine and talking about donating to the Ukrainians. Yeah, yeah, you don't, as citizens of the country, we don't know, and we don't stop and take a look at everything our government is implementing, and we don't have the time just to understand everything they're proposing and everything they're implementing. And there's another channel that talks about this that I highly recommend. The guy's name is Anthony. I'll write it right here. Anthony Davies. He's an economist. And he and his colleagues, they talk about that all the time. The average American just doesn't have time to study up on what's really going on. So the politicians, they tell us things, they promise us things, they play upon our fears, they play upon our prejudices, and they shove these things through while we're looking at Big Willie Style and Chris Rock, or we're listening to Nicki Minaj tell men to eat certain things, or we're focused on, Supreme Court justices and all kinds of things. Floyd says, I regret not having someone to guide me in my early military career about the free educational benefits while being in the military. I missed out on multiple free degrees and opportunities. Yeah, there are a lot of opportunities available to our military servicemen and women. I'm in the federal government right now in the civilian service, and I know that there's a such thing as veterans preferential treatment. Is that the right word? The veterans preference. So military servicemen and women oftentimes do get access to government jobs. They get preference over other individuals for government jobs. And the argument can be made that the Peace Corps does as well, but there are lots of opportunities for military servicemen and women in the civilian service. I've heard, interestingly, Floyd, by sitting in on a workshop at a STEM festival, the speaker, who was from the Navy, did tell us that the Navy, and I didn't know this because I'm not a military serviceman, but the Navy is actually the most STEM intensive military branch, aside from NASA. But is NASA considered? Well, probably the Space Force. The Space Force is probably considered part of the military. But at that time, the Navy was considered the most science intensive military branch, probably followed by the Air Force. Okay. Floyd says, right now, if you take a step back and look at the policies, these platforms, and the USA, you will notice that we don't have freedom of speech anymore. Be careful with the words. Yep, that's exactly right. That's right. You got to be careful. You got to be careful what you say, where you say it, and who you say it to. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, even if it's true, if it's not information that the higher ups want getting out, yeah, they will put a muzzle on you and deplatform you. Absolutely. Last Zulu says, thank you, sir. I appreciate the link. How close or how far do you believe technology and the study of the human body will combine to make androids and cyborgs? Oh, now we're going really into the future. I heard it once said when I was younger that our federal government and our military, before we get any of these things, they already have it. So before we had the internet, before we had email, before we had 3G and 4G, these things were already being created. And then there's a decision about when to release them and let them out to the general public. So these things you're talking about may already exist, but there's I hypothesize that there's a controlled release of these technologies and of new technologies and medicines and innovations. So, I mean, look at what we're seeing with, I don't think YouTube will mind me mentioning the metaverse. Everybody's talking about the metaverse. That's an integration of biology with technology right there. So there are a lot of things that are coming and on the way. Let me see. I'll do a few more. I'll rock out for about another 12 minutes. I'll make it an even hour. Floyd says, I thought it would be the Air Force before the Navy when it comes to STEM careers. Well, if you think about the Navy, they're involved with nuclear reactors, nuclear submarines. So they have to have control over those technologies, even though there is STEM is all throughout aerospace and flight. Okay, guys, you know what? Here's a. Let's see if you guys can answer this one. Speaking of STEM, speaking of the Air Force, speaking of flight, what are the 4 elements of flight? Can any of you guys answer that? There are 4 elements to flight. And I only learned about this because I went to a STEM festival and they were giving a training to some local kids in Maryland. But what are the 4 elements of flight? There's 4 of them. Flight, we get on commercial planes and we fly, and I think we take it for granted just how much STEM and science is in that. Let's see. MLR says the Navy is the most STEM intensive service to be a part of. They deal with space, electronics, and the sea. Yep. Let's see. He says I forgot to include space as well. Snuggles says how far advanced is China and Japan ahead of America? Japan, I don't know. China, don't quote me on this, but I think they're probably neck and neck. Yeah, I think China's probably neck and neck. I've heard. Well, I don't want to spread rumors, but they're if I have any Trekkies out there, I'm a Trekkie. Grew up watching the original series, all the movies, The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine. I heard years ago that China already has, or they're experimenting with the technology for beaming people from point A to point B. But I don't have any proof. I feel a sneeze coming on, but I don't have any proof of that. Let's see, Floyd. I think you have the answer. Hold on. Hold on. Let's see. MLR says most all the technologies we currently use were created for military use. That's right. That's right. So the military industrial complex, I'll call it that, they have huge science and technology. They have a huge science and technology interface. Yeah. I think we are already in the early stages of being cyborgs when you think about our attachments with cell phones and smart watches. Yep. Could you live in society without using a cell phone or for a month? Probably not. And I'm guilty of that. I'm one of the first things I do when I get out of bed is, check my messages and check my business email. I look at the analytics for my YouTube channels. Yes, I'm guilty of that. Asada, thank you for coming through. Welcome. He says, which branch of the government do you work for? I'm with the Department of Treasury. Okay. So Asada, I'm being cautious about saying that out loud here. Well, you joined my newsletter. So maybe I'll I want to thank everybody who joined the newsletter. So, but I have your email address, so maybe I'll share it there. Well, I was going to say it begins with 3 letters, but a lot of government agencies begin with 3 letters. Yeah, I don't want to say it out loud here. Yeah, so the answer to the question I asked what the 4 elements of flight are in terms of STEM. So Floyd listed out lift, weight, drag. Yeah, so it's lift. Weight is also known as G. Pilots call it G. So lift, weight, drag, and thrust. Lift, weight, drag, and thrust. There you go. The 4 elements of flight. And that's one of the reasons why, at least as it relates to commercial flights, they have to make sure the plane isn't too heavy because that the aircraft has to overcome its G. I think that's correct. Any physicist out there watching me, please correct me. MLR says, he had it right here. Lift, drag, weight, thrust. That's the last one. Snuggle says, can we say that the concept of beaming a human being from point A to point B, what things does it take to do that, if you don't mind? Snuggles, that goes beyond my realm of knowledge. You would have to, I'm speculating here, you'd have to, just think about Star Trek. You have to, on a molecular level, disassemble the person and then reassemble them at their destination. That's what the beaming technology did in Star Trek that I could comprehend. Yep. I cheated Dr. Dunbar. The last one is thrust. Yep. And that's why when the aircraft has a tailwind, I think when the aircraft is flying from, let's see, the Earth is rotating, the sun rises in the east, so the Earth, no, the sun rises in the east, so the Earth is rotating eastward, right? That's why the sun comes up on the eastern side and then it sets on the western side. And so I think when you're flying from east to west, you have a tailwind. Yeah. Speculating. I'm just speculating here. Um, let's see. Asada says, "Oh, no problem." Asada, I'll tell you this. I'll give you a hint. It's the agency that Richard Nixon started, or that was started under his administration. And Richard Nixon's party is not typically associated with what this agency's mission is. So think Richard Nixon. Last Zulu says, well, I got to ask these hard questions because who else is going to really answer them? I live in literally the most backward part of the US. Asada says, I probably shouldn't have mentioned it either, SMH. Floyd says, Chinese scientists have just shattered a record in teleportation. They teleported data to a satellite in space using quantum physics. Snuggle says, what does it take to achieve lift? I think you mean lift. Well, to achieve lift, Snuggles, I think you have to overcome G. You have to have enough lift to overcome the weight of the aircraft. Bernoullian lift. Bernoullian lift. There are whole videos on that. What does it take to overcome drag? Well, Snuggles, I think you need enough. I think once the aircraft is up there, the wings are keeping it going, and there are air particles. There's something about the air particles that go under the wing like this, and I think that overcomes the drag. I think the drag is what starts to pull the aircraft down. Hopefully, because the pilot wishes it and not anything else. Okay. Last Zulu says, if you said the 4 elements of flying, thinking wind, current, wind, dragged weight, and maybe something else. What does the weight have to be of an aircraft? Well, I think you need enough you need enough of the elements you need to overcome the weight. And if you don't, then the aircraft is gonna it won't get off the ground, or it'll stall out somewhere in flight, which you don't want. And what creates thrust? And if there's something such as over thrusting, well, thrust comes from the engines. That's pushing, that's propelling the aircraft forward. Let's see, I'll do a few more. Floyd says it's a rabbit hole researching spooky pairs in quantum physics. MLR says, sounds like you're getting into quantum physics and mechanics when dealing with beaming molecular structures from one point to the other. And then he gives these eyeballs to MLR. Okay. Well, guys, I think I'm going to wrap this up. I'm visiting my mom in Buffalo, so I want to go out and I've been told I'm always on YouTube. I'm always in front of a computer. And there's a reason for that, but it isn't always a good thing. You have to spend some time away from the computer as well. So I want to thank everyone who came and hung out. There's one comment here from Floyd I want to address. He says, it's crazy that things we once considered magic and science fiction are slowly becoming reality right now. Teleportation will be a game changer. You know what? I'm going to read something on that note, Floyd, for you guys. And it's right here on my blogging platform. And this is something my mentor turned me on to, Floyd, and it gets right to what you just talked about. Let's see. Complex design. Oh, there he is. Complex. Quick question. Do you understand the Google search algorithm? And there's a reason I'm asking this. If you do, I want to ask you a question. I'll bring you up. I was going to shut down, but do you understand the search algorithm? I mean, you got your hands in a bunch of different things, but so Floyd. So my mentor, when I started blogging, he had me write down the principles that I live by. I still honestly don't have a mastery of this, and I don't have these memorized. But there's me without my beard. That's a couple years ago. Okay, Complex. I'm gonna drop the link. Just come and humor me for a few minutes, and I'm gonna shut the stream down. Complex is in a micromobility and the IoT and all those different things. Anyway, so my mentor, I wrote down all these things, and my mentor said he contributed this one. He said, creative thought. Creative thinking is literally imagination, finding solutions and figuring out what's on the horizon long before others do. It's discovering where things can go versus where they are, moving beyond the unknown. It's problem solving and thinking of innovative solutions. Albert Einstein, in fact, once said, imagination is more important than knowledge. Creative thought is critical in professions that require solving very difficult problems. Entrepreneurship, for example. It's the creative thinkers who have generally made the greatest impact on our lives through the businesses and innovations they've created. So that gets back to Floyd. That gets back to what you said. What you talked about was creative thought. Creative thought is what pushes everything. You just don't sit on the knowledge that you know. Creative thought is what pushes everything. Creative thought is what created reusable rockets and the IoT and 5G, and that's all creative thought. So it's arguably the driver behind everything we have. Okay, Complex is here. Let me bring him up real quick. Complex, what's going on?
Hey, Dr. Dunbar, can you give me a few minutes? I got to plug my phone in and I got to run my daughter to a hair appointment. If you can just give me a few minutes.
Sure.
Uh-oh.
Okay, I see folks. More
Hey,
folks coming in.
can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, I was saying, hey, can you give me a few minutes? I just need to run my daughter to a hair appointment.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, just give me a few minutes.
Okay, I have a really, really simple question. Google brought the search binary algorithm to market. Prior to Google, everything ran on sequential. Stan, if you want to come up and take a stab at this, you're welcome to. The StreamYard link is here. I don't know if you ever come up with one of my panels, but if you want to, I have a really, really simple question that I need someone to answer or give me a clue to. The StreamYard link is there. Uh-oh. Corrine, not Karen. She's here. What's going on, Corrine, not Karen? Thank you for stopping through. And if anyone wants to donate to the channel, of course, you're under no pressure to do so. I appreciate you all being here and gracing my chat. But if you want to make a donation, that information is here. Let's see. Corrine says, good afternoon, everyone, and get the likes up. Last Zulu says, surprisingly enough for a guy who does not study that particular field. I'm surprised I remember close enough. Kareem says, me the ya. Floyd says, I went down a crazy rabbit hole when I did a Google search for China teleportation. Stan. Okay, Stan, that's an icon I've never seen before. Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. This is going to be really, really simple. You guys are probably going to laugh when I ask this. Okay. So we know that employers and just curious people Google you for whatever reason, right? So all of my channels don't have my name. All my channels are named Big Discussion 76 with some variation. I've been Googling myself, and there's a reason I have, which I won't talk about. My channels don't come up, but my name is on the about, and I say my name in every stream. Why is that?
Let's see.
Oh, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Did you hear what I said?
Yeah, I did, but I think this brother was going to go ahead and answer first.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, or whoever.
Oh, so I know a little bit about the Google search algorithm.
Did you hear my question?
Did he answer?
No, he said he knows a little bit about the Google search algorithm. But
Okay. Okay.
Conflict, you go.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just sort of circle back. You said that none of your channels have your name.
So my name is not the title of the channel.
Right.
None of these channels are the Anwar Dunbar channels. They're Big Discussion 76, sports, entertainment, science, whatever.
Right.
Why is it when I Google myself, the channels don't come up? Is that because the channels are not named me?
Yeah. Okay. So so there's kind of like these sort of like these markers in terms of like SEO and search, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have like you have your Google accounts,
Mm-hmm.
you have then the Google services themselves, then you have the actual channel that might be attached to, let's just say in this instance, one of the Google services is YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you may have a channel that's attached to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that channel is not your name,
Yes.
right? It's not your name. See, so what the algorithm understands is that there's a channel called Big Discussion Science and Technology.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what it does is it appropriates certain keywords, tag words, certain data points to the title of the channel, Science and Technology. Right? You got to give the algorithm something to go on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You also have a sports channel
Mm-hmm.
that taps into a completely different set of algorithms.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if I do more specified searches in terms of Big Discussion 76, sports, University of Michigan, Gary Goddamn T, Gary Goddamn T, at that point, I'm going to start finding some things.
Yep. My apologies before. I had a separate window open, so I was experiencing a delay.
Did you hear the whole conversation?
Yes, I heard the whole conversation. Now, this assumes that you are putting your name in the tags for your videos.
I am not.
That's probably that's where I would start. You know, Complex probably knows a whole lot more about this than me, but I do know that you want to start with putting your name in the tags for each of your productions. And you can do that when you upload. You know, when you go through that whole wizard of,
Mm-hmm.
of uploading your video, of setting everything, in Studio, you will see a big text box, probably about 2 inches by one inch tall.
Mm-hmm.
It'll say tags, and you want to load that thing up with all of the keywords that you want in order for your channel to be found, or for you to be found on a Google search.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, the reason I'm asking this is, in some instances, you know, I intentionally didn't name my channels Anwar Dunbar channels. You know, so I don't necessarily want everybody finding me here.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm just this conversation has come up in my personal circle, but I just wanted to know, unless you have the
Yep.
name Big Discussion 76, how easy would it be to find this?
Right. So yeah, in that tag box, you want to put whatever it is you want to be discovered by. You want in that tag box, including single, if you just put just Dunbar, all right, or if you put Dunbar space Big Discussion 76, then that's like an and operator. It will be looking for both of those. But you can load that box up. I think it's the last time I tried, there was no limit to the number of tags you could put in there. There probably is a limit to the number of tags you can put in there. But yeah, you can load that thing up, and it'll definitely help in terms of bringing you up with whatever search keywords that you want to be found under.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
Yeah, I was gonna just follow up on that. I was gonna say keywords and tag words give certain base algorithm stacks more to go on, right? So you can say science and technology, but that's very general, right? But then if you say IoT, if you say micromobility, if you say cybersecurity, right? Then it starts to hone in. Then what that does is it takes that and then it feeds it back out to people who look at content related to that,
Mm-hmm.
and then it offers it up to them. That's how that whole thing works, right? See, so you don't necessarily have to have your personal name attached to things, especially if the channel is a brand in and of itself. I mean, YouTube even gives you the ability to really market it as a brand, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they don't require that you have your name on it per se. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They give you all the tools to leverage how you're presenting your digital product, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
yeah, agreed. Yeah, think carefully about how you want to be found, and you've been doing. From what I hear, you've already been thinking about that. So think carefully about how you want to be found when someone types in what, and that's what you want to load up into that tags. It's all search engine optimization. He termed SEO. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Where's another vocabulary word for us, everyone? Search engine optimization.
SEO.
SEO. SEO. All right.
Hope that answered your question, Dr. Dunbar.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Okay, cool.
So, well, thanks for coming up, guys.
Okay,
Yeah,
it
no
was
problem,
great.
man.
Yep.
And thanks for stopping through.
Anytime.
All
All
right.
right.
Kareen says, let's see. I'm going to wrap this stream up, guys. Let's see. Snuggle says, can you explain the chemical composition of certain plant in its natural state, and there's different composition when it is genetically modified? Okay. I'll just answer this one really briefly, and then I will go through the last comments and wrap up. So when you think about GMO, Snuggles, and that's a very, very controversial field. I believe it stands for, well, let me Google it. Yeah, GMO is an acronym for genetically modified organism. Okay, so in the instance of something like corn or soybeans, what you're doing, and see, I don't have all my pictures here, so I can't show you my pictures, but what you're doing is you're adjusting that organism at the molecular level, so down at the DNA, RNA level, and you're inserting a gene into the genome that's going to express an enzyme that normally isn't expressed by that organism. So in the case of agriculture, what you're doing is you're inserting an enzyme that will make that plant resistant to a herbicide. Do you guys know what an herbicide is? It's a chemical, it's a pesticide that kills plants. So your GMO crop is resistant to that herbicide because it has this enzyme in its genome now, but the other plants don't express that enzyme, so they're going to die. So you're killing everything else but your GMO crop. I hope I explained that clearly. Snuggles, did you kind of get that? Did that make any sense? You're putting a protective enzyme inside the organism that it normally doesn't have. And then you're treating it with a chemical. It's protected because it has that enzyme, but it kills everything else. So if you're growing corn or soy or any other GMO, you want to make sure your crop survives and it kills and everything else, the weeds, the competing foliage. You want to make sure those die, and you want to keep your corn or your soy products. Does that enzyme have an effect on the human system? You know what, Snuggles, that I don't know, and I think that's what everybody's worried about. That's what everybody's irate and shook up about, because we're eating GMO corn, we're eating GMO soy products. GMO is all around us. And as a scientist, just like 5G, based upon what I know, I don't know everything. I don't see what the problem is. If anyone's watching this and they have scientific data saying that GMO is that dangerous, please join us or reach out to me and we can talk about it, assuming YouTube allows it. But I don't see the imminent danger of GMO. So, all right, everyone, I am going to shut this stream down so I can go spend some more quality time with my mom. Let's see. I think Last Zulu has an opinion on it. He says, that is literally the worst idea. That is literally the worst idea. Long-term disaster size. I can tell, dear God, if you're talking about the ecosystem and how that would affect all animals and people. Last Zulu, try to smooth this out a little bit. Say it one more time, and then I'll wrap up. Floyd says, I think GMO is dangerous due to plant pollination. Okay. Yeah. Ag companies, chemical companies who create these things, they have environmental divisions who look at the agriculture and study the agriculture. So those aspects are researched as these products are developed as well. So, Last Zulu, I'm waiting for you to clean that last statement up. I just don't know what you're trying to say. Still there, Last Zulu? Okay, I think Last Zulu has left the building. So I'm going to wrap this up, guys. Hey, everyone, thank you for okay, Snuggle says they're basically saying if you introduce something that would naturally kill all plants around it, it will destroy the foliage that the animals eat. Well, Snuggles, you also have to think about your this is a tool for agriculture. So these are in farms, this is in farmland. That's you're not this is not like Jurassic Park where you're releasing a genetically engineered dinosaur out into the world. This is a tool that's used in agriculture by farmers. So I consider that to be a controlled environment. Last Zulu says, I'm saying long-term sustainability of GMO food is a ecosystem nightmare because of all the rapid changes to the environment, plants and food and animals with no prior testing. Okay. Floyd says, I'm trying to shut this string down, but you guys keep making these really, really good comments. He says, as a hobbyist beekeeper, I can tell you that GMO plants do have an impact on the surrounding environment, including other plants. Crossbreeding will happen and the outcome is unpredictable. Okay, I would agree with that if that occurs, because then you have no control. Snuggle says, does the GMO plant have the ability to recreate themselves? That's another good question, because the agricultural industry, oftentimes they sell these products, they create these products for a one-time use, kind of like the automobile industry. So you have to go back to them and buy more. So farmers have to keep buying many of these products every year. So I don't know that they have that ability. Those are all things molecular biologists can manipulate in a lab. They can make it so that the plants can't reproduce on their own, kind of like in Jurassic Park. So, all right, everyone, that's it. Thank you to everyone who came through. Thank you to everyone who hit that like button. If you're new, please subscribe. If you're watching this for the first time and you have a scientific background in some of the areas that I talked about that I don't have a background in, and you'd like to talk sometime, please reach out to me. Thank you, MLR, for the generous Cash App. Once again, I always appreciate the support. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Oh, hey guys, some shameless plugs here. I created 2 recent uploads on kidney structure and function and disease. If you haven't watched those, please check those out. There's a reason I did that, and I want to work my way around I think the people who watched those videos really enjoyed them, and I'm working my way around to kidney donation and organ transplant. So those 2 videos right there, if you haven't, please take a look at those, give them a like, leave a comment, because you probably know someone who's had kidney disease, or you probably know someone who's had a kidney transplant or needed one. You probably know someone who's on dialysis. So please check those videos out. Give them some love. Give them some love. All right, everyone, I'm going to go relax, watch some TV with my mom, and then go watch the Final Four later on. So this could be Coach K's last game. So more comments. Stan says, take care. Thank you. Snuggle says, so if a genetic level that has something that is not natural to the plant, but human is runoff of plants naturally on a genetic level, what would the additive? Snuggle, I don't know what this means. Floyd says they are discovering GMO plants in areas where they shouldn't be here in the United States. In fact, GMO plants from the USA are popping up across the planet. China raised hell about this a few years ago. Yeah, well, we know that things can travel. Yeah, things can travel in the air across the ocean. That's not surprising. He says the actual answer is yes, they have found the way to start reproducing themselves. So basically now they are going to eventually slowly but surely die or take over the planet. YouTube, this is for educational purposes only. Floyd says, I know it is against the rules of YouTube, but it would be great to discuss the side effects of... No, we are not discussing that here. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. We have to find another platform to do something like that. All right, guys, I'll talk to you next time. Please consider joining the Big Words LLC newsletter here. Yeah. The subscription button is below the greeting. So with that, everyone, enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Please like, share, and subscribe. As always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I'll talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.